You're listening to Honestly Aging by Friends Life Care VigR, a podcast where we explore what it's like getting older, the peaks, the valleys, and everything in between. In this season of Honestly Aging by Friends Life Care VigR, we're covering topics related to vibrant aging. I'm your host, Cheryl Proska. Let's grow old together. On today's episode, I'm joined by Irene and Lee Norcross. Irene and Lee are Friends Life Care members who I had the pleasure of meeting when they presented to the organization about their altruistic efforts to support Philadelphia's homeless community. Together, we collected donations and assembled snacks for Irene and Lee to distribute during their Sunday morning ritual of driving into Philadelphia and giving the gift of warmth and sustenance to people experiencing homelessness. So to start, can you share a bit about yourselves and how you got started in this endeavor?
Okay, well, basically, I guess just to start, we're two very ordinary people that just have this passion. Just a little bit of background about us, I guess, is we're both passionate also about the outdoors, hiking, backpacking, kayaking, running, things like that. I taught special ed, emotionally disturbed kids for almost 30 years. And Lee was an insurance adjuster on the road every day. So he would often be in Philadelphia and see homeless people on the streets. He didn't have anything to give at that time except money, which he did do, and then he would come home and tell me about it. So basically at that point we started buying food and clothing and going in every week, and now we just can't stop. I mean, it's so needed.
Anything you'd like to share, Lee?
No, we as Irene said, we are very passionate about the outdoors. We like outdoor activities and running and all that type of stuff. And the homeless have become a passion of ours. And the more I get involved in it, the more it becomes a passion, actually, because you find out the extent of the depravity that these people experience. And for all intents and purposes, we're almost like a lifeline. I look at it as far as food and water's concerned, not just the clothing. Some of these people have actually gotten to know us. They see us, and they've said, "Oh yeah, we've talked to other people about you guys." So it's almost a sense of, I guess, an obligation almost that we have to go in there to do what we can. I'm not going to change the world, but we're providing immediate care to people in need. And that's our mission, basically.
So what does a typical Sunday morning look like for both of you?
Okay, well, I'll do that one, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, basically we get a lot of donations from friends and strangers as well. And if we're running low on something, we'll go to a local thrift shop and buy things. Lee basically takes care of the clothes, I do the food, and it's just a lot of work because you have to sort everything by size and store them in containers until we're ready for them and that type thing. We see about 40 people approximately every week. We take a couple hours. We leave home about 6 a.m, drive in, go around for a few hours, and give out the food and clothes. And everybody, really, almost everybody is literally laying on the sidewalk. No pillow, no blankets, no nothing. It's no food. I mean, some of them have said they go a few days even without any food. So that's basically what a Sunday morning looks like for us.
We're pretty much moving around too as quickly as we
very
can
quickly. We give out
to avoid traffic when traffic picks up later in the morning. Because then it just becomes extremely difficult to see people and pull over. It becomes a bit of a nightmare. So you're moving kind of as quickly as you can to see as many people as you can in the few short hours that you actually have with low traffic. So there's a lot of work involved, and we're buzzing around. You also want to stop and talk to the people, and you have to evaluate the situation for what clothes they need. So it's I don't say it's a job, but you've got something that you got to do, and you got a short period of time to do it in. So it takes a little bit of energy to accomplish that in the morning.
So, can you expand more on how you go about preparing for these weekly trips into Philadelphia?
Well, like I said, Lee goes through the clothes. He gets them organized into boxes, by size. He has a list of what's in each box. And then I buy a lot of different kinds of non-perishable snacks and put a variety of them in, Ziploc bags so that they're ready to go. And we also buy cases of water to get, because to give them that. I mean, sometimes we've given people water and it doesn't even look like they're swallowing it. It's just like pouring it down their throat. And then they'll ask for another one and do the same thing. I mean, they're in such need. It's just hard to believe, And one time a guy wanted a third bottle. I think we were out of it. And so Lee went, I forget where he went, but he went somewhere to like buy him a bigger bottle of water even. Because he just needed it so badly.
And there's a lot of prep work during the week even. Before each Sunday trip, I've got to repackage everything. I'd probably spend, a good, depending upon what stuff has come in during the week, I have to sort. At least a couple of hours or so, maybe on a Friday evening, getting ready for Sunday, getting everything packed up in the right boxes, in the right bags, making sure we have socks and hats and everything in the right bags, enough blankets. So there's a lot of prep work involved, more than you would think, especially since we've been getting quite a few donations, We have half of our one storage room is covered in boxes of this stuff and everything. So there's a fair amount of prep work involved. And we've got lists in the box as to what's in there and everything. And I got my glasses on, I'm, looking at this stuff, when we pull over to say, oh, he needs sweatpants. How many sweatpants? Well, we got 2 sweatpants left, that kind of stuff. So it's a fair amount of organization involved. And if you don't do that, if you're not really organized, it kind of becomes chaos, and you just stuff piled up in the back of the Subaru, and you don't know what's what and everything else. So you got to be organized in order to really effectively do it.
And it sounds like your strategy may have evolved over time with the way how you're learning how to pack the car and organize things.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
We do have it down a bit of a science,
it's really good now. Yeah.
We're very efficient, so even where we got to go. I know where we have to go, the same areas, we know where we have to go. And even how we have things packaged in the back, a lot of stuff's in boxes or bins, but we have like the hats in a separate like sack, and then we have the socks in a separate sack, and the hats and gloves in a separate sack. So we can go to those sacks right away and pull stuff out. You know what I mean? So we know what's in what, and that's evolved over time too. All the, the way we have things packaged. So now we got it down pretty good, I would say.
I'd love to hear more about what your interactions with the people that you're impacting are like, if you're willing to share.
I don't know why, but I feel such a connection to these people. I mean, there's a few that we've seen repeatedly, and I'm almost at the point now where like I love these people, like because we talk so much. I mean, they don't have anybody to talk to, and I've asked them like, do you have family? And no, and I don't know. I feel very drawn to them. I don't know why.
They're actually quite approachable.
They're beautiful people. I really look at them as beautiful people. I mean, they're so grateful, and they just love having someone to talk to. And I love talking to them. I mean, you can probably tell I talk a lot.
Me too.
They can be very visually intimidating in that their
only
clothes
if they're
are
dirty, their hands are black, feet are black.
Extremely dirty. They haven't had the hands and nails are black.
Wow.
So and the clothes are in shreds, so they can be visually intimidating. And I know from talking to people that aren't familiar with the homeless, they'll even say like, aren't they kind of like a little scared approaching them? Because they can visually be that way, but it's just the opposite.
Yeah.
You go to talk to them, they're very receptive. Oh, hi, and they'll talk to you, and you can have a conversation. And what do you need? And they're so thankful. They're always saying thank you.
Oh my God bless yous we
Thank
get
you.
every time.
And they're courteous also.
Yeah.
Sometimes you run into, like last weekend, I ran into a situation where we were about 6-8 people just came up. There was no one around. We stopped for one guy that was walking across the street all bent over, and we were helping him out. And then all of a sudden people came out of the woodwork around us. There was 6-8 people around the car. What do you got? But they were still they stood back.
Patient, waited.
Courteous, if you cleaned a lot of these people up, they could be your neighbor. There's statistics out there some statistics obviously, are more accurate than others. And I've heard that 3/4 of the homeless have a mental illness diagnosis. And of the homeless, they say 25% have a diagnosis of schizophrenia or some other psychiatric or psychotic disorder. And I just don't see
I don't see that.
I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't see 3/4 of the people like how you would picture somebody with a mental illness. Now, they may be depressed, and maybe that's the mental illness. I can't imagine anybody out there who's not depressed, but to have any kind of a significant mental disorder where, hey, you got to watch what they're going to do, that type of thing. I don't see that. Yeah, you do see people talking to themselves and acting, out of the ordinary for sure. They have a serious problem. But it's not like 3/4 of the people got problems and you can't talk to them. It's not like that.
One thing I just love is sometimes we're out there and somebody will recognize us and they'll come up and show us that they have something on that we gave them before. And I love that because they look so happy to have it,
Last weekend.
Yeah, guy was laying on the sidewalk.
Look, I have your hoodie.
Yeah, So I love that we can do that for them.
My next question was, do you see the same people on your visits? It sounds like you do, and to the point that they remember both of you, and they remember the impact that you've made on them, and to the point that people for maybe like they see your car and just like are able to come up to it and make that line.
There's this one of the guys that I love that we see repeatedly. There are some people that we do see over and over. Most of them, honestly, though, are different each time. But there's this one guy, he's always sitting on these church steps.
He waits at the church for us.
I know he does, because he knows we're coming on a Sunday, and I pull up and I wave to him before we get out and stuff, and he comes right up to the car, and I just love this man.
And there's another guy that we've seen before who has
stomach cancer.
Yeah, he has stomach cancer, and he told us his age.
Oh, I thought he was in his 80s, literally, and I asked him how old he was, and he said 47. I was shocked. He looked that bad, and I haven't seen him in the last few weeks, so I don't know. What's happened to him.
But yes, we do see a lot of the same people, but surprisingly, the majority of people are different every time. So I don't know exactly what the numbers are. As far as the people that we see are identified as the unsheltered, or defined as the unsheltered as far as the city's concerned. I've read also where these numbers could be an underestimate because you can't identify every single person out there, so it's probably in excess of 1,000 people, and which I don't disagree with, because we see so many new people each time. But again, there's a lot of repeat people that we do see that recognize us.
What more would you like to say about the impact that you're having on, now I'll use the unsheltered community in Philadelphia?
Well, we've run into people, and we've run into a number of people this year, like walking across Benjamin Franklin Parkway, major roads all around City Hall, with no shoes.
Or socks.
No shoes, nothing on, no shoes, no socks. Well, sometimes socks, but sometimes no shoes. So if you can give somebody a pair of shoes, boots, maybe like changing their life. You know what I mean? And you'll see a lot of foot injuries. You see foot injuries, and I think that's one of the reasons why is they either have no footwear or insufficient footwear. I ran into one guy. He told me he stepped on. He was showing me his foot, and it's like a bloody kind of wound to it, And he had just been to the hospital for it. And he said he stepped on a needle, and I was looking at his shoes, and he had like beat up bedroom slippers. So fortunately, we were able to get a pair of shoes that fit him. And sometimes we don't have all the sizes, we just get a mishmash of shoes. We were able to get a pair of shoes. That changed this guy's world. We had a woman one time last winter. It was like 40 degrees out. This is a young girl, she's like 30 years old. And I ran up, I caught up to her because she kind of disappeared real quick. And I said, hey, you always come on to them. You want some food, you want some water, and then you move on to the clothes and what you need and want. And I said, yeah. She goes, okay, I'll take some food. But she goes, do you have any shoes or anything? I look down, and it's like 40 degrees out, and she's got like wet socks on, And I said, and she had a whole lot of clothes. I said, listen, we have a lot of stuff in our car for you. They're coming back to the car, and I'm thinking, maybe she's not going to come back, fine, but she did. And we had a pair of boots we gave her, coats, and she ended up hugging Irene and said it was the best day of her life, and they're crying together, It was an incredible scene, so yeah, you can have a significant
There's this one guy
impact.
laying on the sidewalk, and he was kind of out of it a little bit, no shoes or socks, so I went to put the socks on him, and he screamed in pain because his feet were just like
Again,
so
the foot
cut up,
injuries,
from walking with no shoes or socks. So
You've started to talk about this, and I want to see if you care to expand on it about the impact that these efforts, have had on both of you.
It can be quite traumatic at times. We saw this one man, I don't know if I said this or not, this one man, his whole lower arm, he had no skin on it. And it was all different colors of infection. His hand was swollen like 5 times the normal size. Did I say this already?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
And I asked, does he want help? And he said no, but I thought, let me just call 911. Maybe if they come, he'll go. Well, they came and he didn't.
We've had that happen several times where we've had medical issues.
Yeah. But if they don't want to go.
And I know what the result's going to be. They're going to refuse the EMS. I know they're going to, but you got to do it anyway. I mean, just from a human standpoint, you got to make an effort. You know what I mean? I know, and EMS, were asked them if they need any help, and they refused, and EMS says, "Well, we can do." And we called, and then this guy with the infection, we even called Homeless Services of Philadelphia when we got home one time. And they said, "Okay, we'll send somebody out there." And they called us back and said, "Yeah, we did send people out there, but again, he refused help, so there's nothing they could do." You know what I mean? So that leaves you kind of, hurting a little bit.
Because you have to leave him laying there.
You just have to walk away. You have to walk away from somebody that has a significant infection.
And then
that's hard to
this
do.
other time, the timing was like perfect. I couldn't believe it. We're driving down the street, and there's a man in a wheelchair. He literally had no legs. I mean, like his body ended at his body, his torso. No legs at all. From his elbow down, there was no forearm or hands. No shirt, no clothes except a diaper. Thankfully, we had clothes to give him. But that kind of thing. I go home and I can't get these images out of my head for the whole day because it's just so traumatic.
I mean, it leaves you, leaves you with a sense of loss, and that you can only do so much. But you have to put that out of your head and just realize, looking for little victories, just like the woman with the wet socks, and she's hugging her and crying. So you get little victories along the way. That's how you have to look at it. You may not win the war, but you're going to get a victory here and a victory there and a victory, in another way. So that's just how I look at it for the most part.
This one story was also very traumatic. I think Lee saved a man's life because there was a man laying on the sidewalk, a man standing over him with this humongous board, hitting him with it.
Oh, no.
And Lee saw it, we both saw it, but Lee got out of the car and ran up and thankfully chased him away because he couldn't defend himself. So I'm sure he would have died.
Hitting him about as hard as he
if
could,
we didn't see him.
Overhead.
Again, the timing was just perfect, so that he could do that. There was a man laying on the sidewalk and I went up to give him food and he looked up, he took it, and he looked up and he said, "Do you love me?" I mean, my eyes just filled with tears because it was, yes. I said, yes, I do. That's why I'm giving you this, and
every day when we leave the city,
are very upsetting.
We always there's always a story or two that, can you believe that? You know what I mean? Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Every single day, every single trip, we walk home, we drive home, we always talk about that unbelievable story, which...
And the thing is, too, though, I talk a whole lot. And a lot of times on the way home, I'm not even talking because I'm so upset about what we saw. There was a man, he was 88 years old out there, and he had been out there for 3 years. I mean, that shouldn't be. There's got to be somebody in his family that can help him somewhere,
But what? He was incredibly courteous.
Oh, he was
very
sweet.
Nice.
I loved him too.
He seemed happy, surprisingly,
One thing, this was a positive that affected us too, though. This one man, we were walking up to him with the food and he saw us coming up and he started cheering like this, And he said, I'll remember you to the day I die. So that was kind of like a good impact on us.
Of course.
But most of it's very, very upsetting.
But these people are so happy to get what you give them. Sometimes if you even have a hat and a gloves, they're so appreciative of it. And that's very rewarding that you're able to help somebody out, to a small degree, which actually means so much to them. So it is very rewarding.
They're laying on the sidewalk in the winter, especially vibrating from the cold, literally shaking
Last
from
weekend,
the cold.
it was a
And thankfully,
hypothermia.
like we've gotten a lot of blankets this year, so that really helps them.
Right. What are the types of donations that you feel make the most impact, that you just see like really making an impact on people? You talked about shoes, blankets, anything else?
Blankets,
hooded
hoodies,
sweatshirts.
coats,
You can't have enough hooded sweatshirts.
coats, obviously, hats and gloves. Basically, that's it. Hats, gloves, hoodies, coats, and blankets.
Sweatpants.
And socks.
Sweatpants.
Sweatpants. A lot of people ask for pants. So sweatpants they can put on
Anything
over
to
what
keep
they're
you
wearing.
warm. I mean, and our initial focus before this past year was just in the winter. We would go in the cold weather months. But this past year, we've gone 12 months here now. But the winter's where it's really needed. People are cold.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it's seasonal because in the summer, like the water
Yes.
would be
Yeah,
so
huge.
important. Water's
Yeah.
always important. However,
Yeah.
exponentially important.
And in the city, it's so much warmer than where we live.
Right. Right.
4 or 5 degrees hotter.
Would you prefer to age independently in your own home or live in a nursing facility? I know what I'd rather do. Friends Life Care membership offers just that. Plan today for a future lived at home with vitality, independence, growth, and resilience while protecting your savings. Learn more about your options at a free seminar or webinar. Register at friendslifecare.org/register or call 215-628-8964. So when you came and did your presentation for the Friends Life Care staff, you had talked about some statistics for people experiencing homelessness or people who are part of the Unsheltered community in Philadelphia.
Mhm.
Are you willing to share any of those statistics today?
Absolutely. I checked on some updated statistics. This year, the homeless population identified by the city totals 5,191 individuals. And that figure includes the unsheltered, which is what we deal with, the people that you would normally think is homeless living in the street, which is, as of this year, 976 individuals. And the other people comprise people that have temporary housing, maybe living in cars, maybe living in some shelter somewhere. It's interesting that the unsheltered number has gone up 38% since last year. Okay, so because I remember before I checked the numbers, it was like 700, 800. Now it's 976. And like I said before, normally the city comes up with numbers, and they're usually an underestimate of really what the numbers actually are. They're required, I think, by the federal government once a year to do a count. And I think they do it in January, on a night in January. They go out and they count people. So it's only one night. They can't count everybody. But it's obviously they have to do something so that these numbers can roughly, give you an idea of what the number of homeless are in the city. And like I said before, about 3/4 of the people, they say, of the homeless have a psychological disorder, and 25% of that have some type of a major psychiatric disorder. And that's something we're not psychiatrists, but that's something that we don't see, really. We see more of what they call regular people type thing. You know what I mean? People that are very approachable, people that don't appear to have a significant illness. Many of these people, the homeless, the unsheltered that we see, they're not even in tents. We saw a tent, I think last week I saw a tent. I don't see a lot of tents. Now maybe there may be encampments in different parts of the city. We confine our activities to Center City, Philadelphia. Sometimes you'll see little cardboard shelters, that type of thing. But most of the people are literally just laying, not in the streets, but next to the streets, on the sidewalks, laying in the parks, that type of thing. So you got roughly 1,000 plus unsheltered strewn about the city, basically, is what you have. And there's limited medical care because for the most part, a lot of times they don't want to be taken to the hospital. They don't want that. I think they don't want services a lot. This is just speculative because they're mistrusting, I think, of society or of different governmental agencies. I've heard that before. So that may be why they don't go to shelters or they refuse medical treatment. There's just a general distrust out there. So.
What are some of the misconceptions you find people have about the unsheltered community?
Well, I guess, like I said before, a lot of people think that they're drug addicts and alcoholics, and we don't see that. I'm sure some are. Just by speaking to them, I can see that they're not. They just seem like normal people, like somebody you would like to be friends with almost. Everybody just pretty much walks by them like they're trash. They look down and just kind of keep going. Once in a while you'll see somebody hand them some money or something, but most everybody just walks by them, and it's just terrible because they're real people.
And you also run into people once in a while who will. I saw one guy crying on the curb, and I didn't know what the problem was. I went up to him, I gave him some stuff, and I said, "Everything okay?" And yeah, I'm fine. You sure? I don't want to pry into his life or anything. So I don't know what the situation there was, but I do know that there are some people that actually come up to us and say, "How can I get treatment?" One guy by City Hall came up to us. I want to get rehab. I want to go to rehab. How do I get a hold of rehab? I don't know. And it was early in the morning. There was no police around or anything like that. I said, hey, as soon as you see a police officer around, just ask them. They'll point you in the right direction. And we had a guy, I think it was this past week maybe, or maybe the week before, who made reference to, I'm going to be getting a job. I'm going to be getting a job next week, or when we start a job. So it
and
isn't
one
like
man at Logan Circle told me how he was going to be rehab. So if you
He
don't
was
see me for
starting
a
rehab.
month, he said, because he would be there repeatedly.
So these people aren't like necessarily bums looking out for handouts. These people are wanting to, at least to a degree, improve themselves, are looking for a hand up. I guess that's probably a misconception. I think most people look at them just like that. These people either have given up or can't do anything about their situation, and that's not necessarily the case. With people looking for a job, wanting to get a job, or wanting to get rehab, wanting to get out of the mess that they're in.
Yeah, but I just find most of them are very approachable and very nice to talk to.
What's been coming up a lot for me throughout this conversation is the word neglect, where it sounds like the people that you are interacting with feel neglected emotionally, feel neglected physically, feel they're just like perhaps a forgotten or and misunderstood part of really they're human beings.
That's exactly right.
There was a guy on Broad Street. This is a young kid. He's in his 20s. I forget what his sign said.
Something like, I'm a person.
Something to that effect. I'm a person. I'm a human being too.
Young.
And you went up to him. What did you say to him?
I said, what did I forget?
Something to the effect that, you are a person.
Yes, you are. And you matter to me.
You matter. That's
like
what
that,
it was.
Because that was tough to see too.
Because I think sometimes you'll see people approach them and you can see them, they're asking for something from the person, and the person just kind of just walks by them, you know what I mean? So you obviously can't feel good about yourself. But we did see a woman this past Sunday. I was watching this. I saw a woman, she had a cup of coffee in her hand, and we were just coming upon the intersection, and I see there's a homeless guy in the corner. I was like, okay, let's see what happens here. She's walking across the street, she gets to the corner, All of a sudden she's looking over, okay, she sees them. She's let me just see what happens here, She's probably just going to walk right by him. And all of a sudden she starts walking in his direction, and you see, and it's all in silhouette because the way it was so neat to look at. It's all in silhouette because of the morning light and everything. And I see her extend the coffee cup to him. It was such a moment. It was like, wow, that's great. He takes the coffee cup, and we actually pulled over and
then we
gave him
stuff
something and everything.
I just want to throw in one more thing I'm grateful for is the fact that he's into this as much as I am, because I could see in a married couple, one person might really want to be doing something like that, but the fact that, because I couldn't drive in the city by myself, and just the fact
I wouldn't let you drive anywhere.
He wouldn't. But the fact that, he is so into it as much as I am extremely grateful for that. I tell him all the time because I couldn't do it without him.
I mean, just from my perspective, it is palatable, the strong connection that you both have, and it's just a pleasure to be able to experience that.
He is a very good man.
She's a good woman.
Thank you. You made me cry.
So how can our listeners get involved with supporting your efforts or supporting the Unsheltered community, either in Philadelphia or wherever they might be residing?
Yeah. What I would say is, like I said before, don't look at them as scary people. There's always outliers, but for the most part, these are people who are very approachable. They're not going to hurt you. You can very easily walk up to somebody. You may get shocked by the response you get from them. If you have a snack in your pocket or whatever, or there's a hot dog stand next door, get them a hot dog or give them a coffee and give them to the person. And, you might end up feeling pretty good about yourself, based upon the response that you get from these people. They're very appreciative, that type of thing. And I think if more people started doing that, then more attention might be brought to them, and quite possibly then that, maybe corporate involvement may occur, maybe private money may be involved as far as really changing the game, i.e. Structures, buildings for these people, because that's what's involved. I mean, we're not going to do that, ours is just an immediate type thing. But if more people did that and they started, getting maybe the view of people may change, the view of the homeless may change among the public in general, So that's one, I think, component. The other is, if people want to donate things, they can donate clothes to us if they like. I could say, you can't have enough hooded sweatshirts, in my opinion, and blankets
and
too.
Hats and gloves and blankets are big.
And the sweatshirts and the sweatpants and the shoes and the socks and boots in the winter, that type stuff. You can go through a fair amount. Like you say, the people that inundated me this past weekend, I had blankets flying right and left. Hey, you got this, you got that. I'm like, I'm going from one door to the other, grabbing this, grabbing that. So things can go pretty fast.
When I give them a bag of food, a lot of people will ask, can I have one more, because they're just so hungry.
And we do have a volunteer,
I have a friend
a woman by the name of Ellen, who actually makes sandwiches for us.
She gives 50 sandwiches every few weeks.
And water and that type stuff.
And snacks also.
And also snacks can be helpful because she's always going to the dollar store. She goes, I spent $60 at the dollar store getting snacks and everything. So that type stuff's always helpful because we give that out 12 months a year.
Basically,
food and water.
Non-perishable snacks. And we bag them up.
Yeah.
So before we close, what are the main takeaways that you would like our listeners to hear from this conversation and all of the work that you're doing to support the Unsheltered community?
Go ahead.
I guess the big thing, like I said, we talk about the misconceptions of the homeless as far as, I had somebody ask me the other day who lives in the city, are they all mentally ill? And I'm like, no, they're not. Maybe everybody has a diagnosis, I'm sure they do, of depression or something because of the situation that they're in. But they're all very approachable people. And they can all be helped even in a small way. And that's our mission, really, is just to help them in a small way, making their immediate lives better.
Especially in the winter, to keep them warm.
Yeah. They're always seem to be hungry, too. I don't find too many people saying, I don't want any food. They're always asking for a second
Yeah.
people that use for a second bag, snack bag. A lot of times we got to be careful because we only have so many. We only fit so much stuff in our car. You know what I mean? So in a lot of ways, we do have to like kind of be careful as to what we give out because we'll lose everything. You know, in an hour.
I
or
just
something,
went through
you know?
something, and this one time we were out of food, and we went up to this one last man or something, and we were out of food, and we bring our lunches with us to eat on the way home in the car because it goes through lunchtime. And Lee went back to the car to get his sandwich to give to the man.
Right, yeah.
That's what that kind of man he is. But like anything.
But I can go get a
them.
sandwich in an hour when we go
Right.
home. You know, what's the big deal? You know what I mean?
Well-
That's what I guess that gets back to the original point. If you have something, just give it to somebody. You know, you can go home and make another sandwich or get another candy bar or something in a short period of time. They have nowhere to go. You know what I mean? They're just relying upon what is given to them, literally out in the street. You know, and like I say, that is our mission. We're not. Our mission is not to place blame on a government, an organization, or anything like that. There's just an immediate need for care, and that's basically our mission. Pretty simple, really, when you think about
It's
it.
just become a passion that we can't stop.
And
I said when I stop doing it, that's gonna be the day I die because I can't stop.
Anything more to add before we close?
I don't know. I think we kind of covered it. It's like I say, our mission's pretty simple. You know, we're not looking to get political about it all. We're not looking to write letters to governments and see what can be done, the state and the federal government. We're just there to provide immediate care to these people. And like I said, they're extremely receptive. They're not to be feared. And I talked to actually an employee in the dentist office. Her daughter was starting a job, I think in Dallas, Fort Worth or something.
Oh yeah.
And there were a lot of homeless. She drove her down there. She just graduated from school. She's 22 years old or something. And she was a little concerned about the homeless, that live in proximity to her apartment. And I told her, I said, listen, there's outliers. There's always strange things that happen. I said, really, she doesn't need to fear that. I mean, and she goes, you know what? She goes, you're right. She goes, after we stayed down there a couple of days, I even talked to a couple of them, and there wasn't a concern, there as far as them causing her daughter any harm or anything like that. So that's the only thing to it, not to be feared, really.
Well, thank you both so much
Thank you for having us.
coming
I really
in,
appreciate it.
sharing your story and your impact with us again and the greater audience of our listeners. And just a personal thank you from me for all of the positive impact that you have on people who desperately need it. Thank you.
Well, I thank
appreciate
you
your
for
having
the
us.
stuff that you
This was
you
really
guys
nice.
you guys did for us. All the
All those
donations. By far, the single largest donation we ever received was from you guys. And as I said earlier, when you gave us the food, I figured, okay, we'll take the boxes home, and you guys proceeded to set up an assembly line, packaging the food,
They were great.
which is unbelievable. I was really shocked at what you guys did as far as I was concerned. I was greatly appreciated.
Well, on behalf of Friends Life Care, it was our pleasure, and you're quite welcome.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Honestly Aging by Friends Life Care VigR, a unique program focused on vitality, independence, growth, and resilience. You can find links and show notes from this episode on our website at friendslifecare.org/podcast. Thank you to Irene and Lee Norcross for joining us today. If you're interested in supporting Irene and Lee's efforts, her Facebook page is linked below, or you could search Irene Norcross on Facebook. And thank you to Nick Dieterding for editing all the Honestly Aging podcast episodes. If you like our show, please rate, review, subscribe, and join us next time. To learn more about aging with vitality, independence, growth, and resilience, subscribe to our blog at friendslifecare.org/blog.